Hello, class. Dr. Gillies, since I missed the presentation last week, he asked me to make a video presentation so I can get credit for this, so I took him up on the offer. And also, we should have been emailed a summary PDF of some of the sheets I was going to hand out that go along with a few of the studies and their results. So I wanted to follow through with those once I go through this presentation. I'm going to start with some of the questions he had. What was your research question? What methods did you use to get the data, and why is this study important? And the research question was, in my paper, I have the research question stated as such: is there a relationship between certain characteristics and practices, I call them success factors, of a new business owner or an entrepreneur, and a measurable level of success, which is measured by survival or profitability in their business in 3 to 5 years. So we're looking at, are there factors before you go into business that are likely to, if you practice these things, that you're more likely to be successful in business. So I thought I'd go through my abstract because that answers a couple of the other questions that Dr. Gillies had presented for us. First let me mention, in addition to the question, I also wanted to work in, are there factors that are emotional intelligence based, EI based? Because a lot of the work that I've done in my MBA program, I've tried to work in emotional intelligence into those things, and I've noticed when I was doing the studies on a lot of the stuff that's been written for this, there are a number of the factors that are based on emotional intelligence. So I was working that in as well. So just a quick summary of what emotional intelligence is, though, is it's basically comprised of the following: social aptitudes, self-awareness, emotion management, self-motivation, empathy, and relationship management, and impulse control. Those are basically a lot of the skill set that make up what an emotionally intelligent person are, and I found in business that they tend to be, especially also in corporate level, higher level executives in corporations that are successful tend to operate at a high level of emotional intelligence. Okay, so I'm just going to read the abstract because it does address kind of the basis for the whole thesis and answers a couple of the questions that Dr. Gillies asked us to address in this presentation. So the abstract is, this study, it arose from a recurring concern at my accounting firm with small business clients. And small businesses generally experience a varied range of success. They often struggle to survive or succeed, although we do a lot of small business accounting, and so we have a lot of experience with them, so this is what we see. Many of them run strong and they're profitable from year to year, but still many of the other small businesses languish over time. Successful businesses seem to operate with an unwritten set of rules for success. If there was some set of predictors to small business success, and if they could be identified, this would allow us to help our clients, who are primarily small business owners and entrepreneurs, to be more successful. In fact, these predictors would be valuable to any new or young small business. The study hypothesizes and attempts to show that there is a relationship between certain characteristics and practices, or success factors, of a new business owner, entrepreneur, and a measurable level of success after several years, 3 to 5 years of operation. It also goes on to suggest that some of these success factors are rooted in emotional intelligent entrepreneurial characteristics. The study is a systematic review of existing studies on the causality between certain factors to the success of small and medium-sized enterprises. And these findings suggest that there does exist factors that, as a whole, help predict a notably higher likelihood for small business success. So in my systematic review of a lot of different materials that are out there, I was surprised to find that there's a number of studies, but surprisingly few, that try to show a systematic causality between factors that business owners have beforehand and the success that they have by practicing those things. But you know, authors who have done some of the most substantive work, there are a couple that stood out, and one of them is William Gartner, who is actually a professor at Cal Lutheran in our entrepreneurial and small business program, and he's done a whole lot of work. He's done about 30 years worth of work in small business and entrepreneurial studies, and he's got a lot of information, but he has a good framework of study for causality between factors that seem to show that a business will be successful. Another one is Robert Lussier, and so I want to cover a couple of things from them, some of their basic work. There's a lot of other work that helps support it, but they're some of the core people that are doing this. And lastly, Kenneth Ree, who has tied in a lot of emotional intelligence-based characteristics into the success of small business as well. So they turned out to be the ones that stood above a lot of the peer-reviewed work that exists and have some really good ongoing work, and they're quoted in a lot of other work quite a bit too. So what my paper does primarily kind of put together the history and summarize a lot of the other work and show what's been done, but then it really supports heavily the work of Gartner and Lussier, because they've done, for my thesis, quite a bit of studies, and they have a good model that shows a high level of predictability between factors and business success. And so mainly the rest of this presentation, I just want to highlight their work and do a quick summary of what they showed us, what factors actually are beneficial, and some of the factors that help show that businesses are not going to do too well if you have those factors. So if you can find the first sheet, the Gartner 1990 sheet, and I'm going to quickly go over a summary of Gartner's 1990 work. That was titled A Profile of New Venture Success and Failure in an Emerging Industry. It's somewhat of the basis of ongoing studies that Gartner had started back in 1990. It goes over 20 characteristics of success, and a lot of this is information he continues to build on. When I looked him up, he's done hundreds of different papers in the small business entrepreneurial realm. But in summary, this study examines three types of factors, as you can see from the sheet. One, the characteristics of the lead entrepreneur. Two, startup processes undertaken during the founding of the firm. And three, firm behaviors after startup, including management practices and strategic behaviors associated with new venture success and failure. And if you're looking at that sheet, to summarize, there's a number of factors that he goes through. He has 20 different characteristics in the study, but comparisons between successful and unsuccessful entrepreneurs indicated that successful entrepreneurs were more likely to, one, have entrepreneurial parents, which is interesting, and so they grow up in an environment of entrepreneurism and seeing what it takes to, I guess probably they see their parents going through things and the challenges they have and how they practice successful business. Also having a broad range of previous managerial experience. They seek to reduce risk. They're also less likely to see firm success as within the sphere of their control than the unsuccessful entrepreneurs. So they seem to have a realistic feel for the fact that it's difficult to have a successful firm, and they don't just assume that it's an easy job. Also, they more likely to use a procedural and comprehensive planning process. So planning is part of the success. They spend more time planning. They generate a broad plan which recognizes all the functional areas. They undertake market research. And I thought one that's very important, they seek professional advice. One of the things I see with a lot of successful business owners and entrepreneurs is that they they know they need to create a good team of accountants and lawyers and bankers and people in their industry that can help them create a successful plan and know who they are, who they're competing against, and what they need to do to be successful. So next up is the Gartner 1999 sheet. I'll show you if you can find that one. That is Gartner 1999. The title is Predicting New Venture Survival, an analysis of anatomy of startup cases from Inc. magazine. So it's kind of interesting analysis of Inc. magazine having done a study of a lot of small businesses and their success factors and what they thought were success factors. So Gartner wanted to do a more scholastic and quantitative analysis of what they did and see if what's more popular business work melds well with a scholastic environment and more of a scientific analysis. So this article, it tests the insights and predictions of venture success as offered by reporters and experts in Inc. magazine to the predictions generated from an analysis of data from a venture screening questionnaire with Gartner. The venture screening questionnaire consists of 85 items covering 4 broad categories. 1, individual characteristics, 2, entrepreneurial behaviors, 3, strategy, and 4, environment. So this is more of an expansion of the Gartner 1990 study and him getting into more details, but also seeing if with the more popular business ideas, how accurate that those are. And some of the findings, one of the things they found, the change in knowledgeability on that sheet, which is more of a measure of flexibility as you start a business and move along, your change in knowledge, your change in ability. So it's more of an adaptability measurement. That's a high level of measurement in successful entrepreneurs. Also, 3 measures were significant predictors in this study. Entrepreneurs who devoted more effort to working with established suppliers or subcontractors and analyzing potential new entrants were more likely to start a new venture that survived, as well as entrepreneurs who devoted less effort to determining the identity of their business. So a lot of this just shows the level of flexibility that entrepreneurs, they're looking at working with their market, working with their suppliers, and analyzing their market and adapting to their market. Those are large factors in the success of small business. Also, new ventures that were started in industries that were growing were more likely to survive. That seems very obvious. And new ventures started with the ventures team's personal resources or readily available funding were more likely to survive. That's something we see in a lot of the studies, is a lot of new businesses that fail or just start out underfunded, and they don't have the ability to last very long and just get their own organic growth and momentum going before they can succeed. And that's something that businesses have to think of, because you could have a very good and successful plan, and if you're underfunded, you just don't have the time to really grow roots and get going well. And where otherwise, if you had the money, you would actually succeed. So the next study is moving from Gartner to Lussier, and the Lussier 1995 sheet, which is, this one's nice. The sheet in and of itself is pretty self-explanatory, but the title of this paper is A Non-Financial Business Success versus Failure Prediction Model for Young Firms. And Lussier, he's saying a success versus failure prediction model can help the prospective entrepreneur more accurately assess the probability of the proposed business. And so it parallels what I'm looking at and what Gartner was showing too. It's a slightly different model than Gartner's. Both those models, by the way, are more than 65% accurate. Some of them, depending on the where they're being applied and how they apply it, have been up to 80% accuracy, so that's pretty good. Lussier here, he's saying the study's not based on financial ratios, but on the quantitative and qualitative managerial factors that may contribute to success or failure. To date, for this Lussier in 1995, he had found that only a few major non-ratio empirical studies had existed, and so he saw the need for this study. Some of the main points in this study on the sheet is capital. Businesses that start undercapitalized, like we were just saying with Gartner, they have a greater chance of failure than firms that start with adequate capital. Also found that management experience is a big factor. Businesses managed by people without prior management experience have a greater chance of failure than firms that are managed by people with prior management experience. Planning, businesses that do not develop specific business plans have a greater chance of failure. And professional advisors, businesses that do not use professional advisors have a greater chance of failure. And that's one thing we see at our firm as well. Under planning and not creating a team of advisors to help you in what you're doing are large factors in success. Undercapitalization definitely is a large factor. And also, it's interesting to notice that Lussier said parents, business owners whose parents did not own a business have a greater chance of failure. So there are a lot of parallels that in my paper, I'm going to especially show that there are a lot of commonalities between Lussier and Gartner that help show more likelihood for success. Then Lussier in 2001, this sheet, Lussier 2001, this shows some regression model test results, and this is called a cross-national prediction model for business success. In this study, the Lussier 1995 success prediction model, originally developed using U.S. data, is tested using a sample of firms from Central Eastern Europe. The same factors found to be predictors of success in the U.S. are also predictors of success and failure in Central Eastern Europe. They're also trying to show that their model, which has got a 65 success rate percent in the U.S., actually it had a higher success rate when they did it in an international, cross-national model. Also applies in other countries. So some of the highlights from this, again, capital. Businesses that start undercapitalized are more likely to fail. Record keeping and financial control. Businesses that do not keep updated and accurate records and do not use adequate financial controls have a greater chance of failure. That's something that we find. Businesses that are on top of their bookkeeping on a month-to-month basis, the owners are able to look at all the bookkeeping records and the accounting on a monthly basis and have a more intuitive feel for what their company is doing. If they're on top of their books, they can see where their expenses are and how much they are, and just track trends and be on top of things much better when their record keeping is on time. Also industry experience, management experience, people that go into business with having had experience first before they go ahead and have their own company and put their own finances at risk. They're much more likely to be successful. Planning is a part of success. Professional advisors, once again. Education, which is a part of experience as well. Experience and education all have to do with your success. And again, Lussier is stating parents, business owners whose parents did not own a business have a greater chance of failure. That comes up time and time again. So the last author who contributes a lot to my paper on the emotional intelligence portion is Kenneth Rhee. His paper is The Emotional Intelligence of Entrepreneurs, and that's Rhee 2007. That should be the 5th sheet of your PDFs. and the emotional intelligence of entrepreneurs. He's saying that entrepreneurship research has recognized the entrepreneur as a catalyst to the new venture process. A popular stream of research not yet applied to entrepreneurship has been the study of emotional intelligence of entrepreneurial venture leaders. This study collected self-assessment data of emotional competencies on successful young entrepreneurs. Participating entrepreneurs reported that they demonstrated high levels of self-confidence, trustworthiness, achievement orientation, service orientation, change catalyst, teamwork, collaboration, trustworthiness. The ability to maintain standards of honesty and integrity was ranked among the highest of all the emotional competencies. So that was interesting in this study. So in this study, the ECI, the Emotional Competency Index, it consisted of 72 questionnaire items measuring 18 emotional competency scales. And you can see that on the sheet, the spread of all of those competencies. The participating entrepreneurs reported that they demonstrated higher levels of self-confidence, trustworthiness, achievement orientation, service orientation, empathy, change catalyst, and teamwork and collaboration in comparison to other competencies in the questionnaire. In addition, these competencies seem qualitatively higher when compared to the norm in the overall population. So the successful entrepreneurs with higher EI, they measured higher than most of the population in these items. And as you can see on the sheet, the highest levels of emotional intelligence that they measured are teamwork. They were good collaborators. Optimism, they're very optimistic about their businesses on an ongoing level, and they're very achievement oriented. But the highest overall that they showed in the study was that trustworthiness was the highest level of EI measured in there, and it was gauged as important and relevant to a successful small business. So that's pretty much my paper. I'm trying to show there's a correlation between certain factors that are business related, that are emotional intelligence related, and just a lot of factors that are based on just common sense and good practice to show that these factors, if they're practiced by people before they start a business, are most likely statistically, and I think I'm going to be able to show through these three different authors' works some good studies that these factors do consistently, 70% of the time or more, show that if you practice this, then most likely your business is going to succeed over just the average business. Most businesses don't succeed over the course of 5 years, and there's a lot of factors involved in that. There's a lot of emotional things about what people do, how they run their business, what they decide to do, but people who practice these common factors are more likely to succeed. So I hope that this is useful for you. Thank you very much.